Now, the next session is about operating system. The software that controls or manages the hardware is known as the OS or operating system. Okay, so it enables a user to conveniently handle the computer and make the best use of its hardware. A user simply gives a command to the operating system, like he or she specifies what should be done, and the operating system decides how and when the task should be done. Okay, so here is the figure that displaying the analogy between working of a restaurant manager and OS, that means operating system here. Okay, you can figure out it here. Here in this figure, look this example first. Manager in a restaurant controls how order is taken, how order is processed, how order is served, and how bill is generated. Okay, and then waiter takes the order, okay, from the customer. The cook prepares the order, and then the waiter serves the order to the customer, and then at last the cashier generates the bill. Okay, so these are the step by step procedure in a restaurant. And for operating system in a computer, it will be like this way. Operating system controls how input is received, how request is processed, how order is displayed, and at last how print is generated. Then the keyboard takes the input, the CPU processes the request, and then the monitor displays the output, okay, on the screen or as the paper output. Okay, okay, so we have to know the need of an operating system in our computer. Operating system manages and coordinates the functions of all the components of a computer, both hardware and software. Okay, so the hardware in a computer provides resources for performing the basic computing tasks. Okay, so it is the job of the operating system to control and coordinate the use of hardware so that the computing tasks can be performed with the help of various application software that already installed on our computer. Okay, so the following basic and important operations are here. Number one is it recognizes the input entered by the user. Input means suppose mouse or keyboard. Second one is it displays the generated output on the computer screen. Third one is it keeps a log of the files and directories on that hard disk. And at last, it manages the various peripheral devices of the computer such as printers and scanners. Okay, got it? Okay, now we will be learning about the operating system that commonly used. Number one is DOS. So DOS refers to Disk Operating System, and it is also known as MS-DOS. This operating system was developed by Microsoft for IBM compatible personal computers. Okay, next one is very popular, the Windows. The term Windows collectively represents all Microsoft operating system products. Over the years, Microsoft has released various versions of Windows OS such as Windows 95, 98, 2000, XP, Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. Okay, all the versions are here. Then the name of the operating system is Unix. Unix was the first developed in 1969 by Ken Thompson, Dennis Ritchie, and others of the AT&T group at Bell Laboratories. It was among the first operating system to be written in a high-level language, namely C. Okay, so it is a multi-user and multitasking operating system, which means that it allows two or more users to execute several programs simultaneously. Okay, and the last one is Linux. Linux is a Unix-based, freely distributable, open-source operating system. Open source refers to a program whose source code is freely available on the internet. This source code is open to modification by anyone who uses it. Unix, Linux, and GNU are the three ways based on an open source code. Okay, got it? Okay, and another commonly used operating systems are Mac, Solaris. Okay, now we'll be learning about introducing desktop environment of operating system. The word desktop means a desk where you put all the things required by you. For example, your desk may contain a pen stand, a writing board, color pens, copies, books. Okay. Similarly, desktop of an operating system contains more or less the same thing, such as files, folders, and clocks. The desktop is a graphical screen that contains some icons. Okay, got it? So these icons are used to instruct the operating system to perform various tasks such as opening application windows or launching different applications. Okay, now we will be learning about the Linux desktop. Okay, so the desktop of Linux operating system may contain a wallpaper in the background, one or more active windows, top and bottom bars, and icons. Here I am showing the figure. Okay, look at the figure. Okay, so a desktop background can be single color screen or any interesting image. All windows and icons appear at the top of the desktop screen. Two popular graphical Linux desktops are the GNU Network Object Model Environment or GNOME desktop and the KDesktop Environment desktop or KDE desktop. Okay, now we will learning about the components of a desktop environments. Okay, so number one is window manager that determines the behavior of an application windows. Panels, they are displayed on the edge of the screen and generally contain the system tray, menu, and quick launch icons. Then menus, it consists a set of options that help you to find information or execute a program function. Then widgets that display useful information on various subjects such as weather, news, or system information. Then file manager that helps you to navigate to the file or folder on our computer. Okay, then browser, it helps you to browse information on the internet. Next, office suite. Office suite enables you to create documents, spreadsheets, and presentations. Then text editors that helps you to create or edit text files. Next one, terminal that provides access to the command line tools. And last is display manager that enables you to log in into your computer. Okay, so apart from the listed major components, the Linux operating system desktops also contain the objects like computer icon, home icon, trash icon, or additional icons. Okay, now we will be learning about the Windows desktop. The desktop of Windows 7 is fundamental area where we can perform several operations and tasks such as opening an existing file, creating a new file. Okay, so it represents a medium that not only appeals to the eyes but also allows faster access to the programs and files on our computer. Okay, so here is the figure of Windows 7 desktop. Okay, now we will be learning about the visual elements of Windows 7. Okay, so these are the desktop icons. Okay, and their names are listed here. So look at this. So look at that. At first, the first icon is desktop icon. It refers to small images that signify various items such as programs, folders, or files on the desktop. Next one is taskbar. It refers to the long horizontal bar at the bottom of the desktop. The taskbar allows us to access various programs, certain computer specific settings, and some commonly used tasks. Then it is desktop icons. Okay, now the desktop icons have a textual label that appears right below them. Labels give a short description about the program that the icon represents. Okay, so the desktop icons allows us to open or start the corresponding programs directly by double clicking them. Some of the most common desktop icons and their corresponding programs are listed in the following table here. Okay, now we will be learning about common desktop operations. There are a number of operations that can be performed on the desktop of a computer. Keyboard and mouse play a vital role in performing these operations. Okay, so some of the operations that can be performed commonly on the desktop of a Windows computer are as follows. Number one is adding icons to the desktop. Second, adding shortcut icons on desktop. Number three, hiding desktop icons. And number four, adding gadgets on the desktop. Okay, now we'll be learning how to add any number of icons to the desktop. Okay, so the icons that you use more often are the ones representing programs such as computer, network, recycle bin, browser. Okay, so you can add icon to your desktop by using the desktop icon setting. Okay, desktop icon setting. Okay, so you have to use desktop icon setting dialog box as shown in this figure. So this dialog box is accessed by right clicking anywhere on the empty space of the desktop, then click the personalize option from the context menu, and then click the change desktop icons link available in the left pane of the personalization window. Okay, we are learning how to add shortcut icons on desktop. We can add shortcut icons of a file, folder, or application on our desktop by simply right clicking the particular element and then select send to option. Okay, and then click desktop create shortcut. Okay, from the context menu. So this figure shows the way to create and display a shortcut icon of notepad program on our desktop. Okay, here is the icon of notepad and here is the icon of recycle bin. Okay, now we will be learning the procedure how to hide desktop icons. It is possible that sometimes you may want to have a clean desktop without any icon. In such a situation, you can hide all the desktop icons. So you can hide a desktop icon by right click anywhere on the empty space on the desktop and then select the view and then select show desktop icons option from the context menu in a such way that the check mark in front of the show desktop icons option is cleared as shown in the figure. Okay, so this will clear your desktop by hiding all the desktop icons. You can later unhide the icons on your desktop by selecting the show desktop icons option such that a check mark appears in front of this option. Okay, here is the option. Now the next part is adding gadgets on desktop. To add gadgets on your desktop, you need to double click the gadget in the Windows Gadget Gallery window, and so as shown in the figure. We can access this window by right click anywhere on the desktop and then select the gadgets option from the context menu. Okay, now the part is working with files and folders. Okay, So in computer terminology, a file is similar to a paper sheet and a folder is similar to a book. As a book contains pages, a computer folder consists of files. So Windows 7 allows us to organize our files and folders according to our preferences. To arrange our documents, we can store the related files in one folder. In addition, we can move, copy and search the files and folders with the help of mouse and keyboards. Okay. So now, at first we are creating and saving a file. So a file is created in a computer to record different types of data, which can be either textual or graphical or a combination of both. Okay, so you can create a file in case in our in our case notepad file by clicking all programs and then accessories, all program accessories and then notepad in the start menu. Okay, so now you can enter some information in the opened notepad file as shown here. After entering text in the file, you need to save the file for future uses. Okay, now then we'll learn how to create and save a file. To save a notepad file, you need to specify the file name in the save as dialog box. Okay, file name in the save as dialog box. You can access this dialog box by clicking file and then save option. Okay, now creating a folder. A folder acts as a container for files. We generally save those files in a folder that are related in some way to each other. Okay, so we can create a folder by right clicking on the desktop and then select the new and then select the folder like that way. Okay, new and then folder. Okay, from the context menu as shown here. The folder with a default name appears on our screen, that means computer screen. Now you can enter a name for the folder and press the enter key. Okay, how to rename a file and folder. Actually, the renaming a file or folder means changing the existing name of the file or folder. So you can rename a file or a folder by right clicking the file or folder that you want to rename and then select the rename option from the context menu. Okay, now enter the name of the file or folder and press the enter key. Okay, now we'll learn about the deleting file and folders. We can delete files or folders in our computer by right click the file or folder we want to delete and then select the delete option from the context menu. Now select the yes button in the delete folder dialog box. After we delete a file or folder from computer's drive, it does not get permanently deleted from our computer. The deleted file is moved into the recycle bin, which holds the deleted files and folders. To remove a file permanently from our hard disk, we need to empty the recycle bin or individually delete a file from the recycle bin. Okay, so recycle bin also allows us to restore the deleted file or folder. To restore a file or folder from the recycle bin, we need to double click the recycle bin icon on the desktop. Okay, desktop, and then right click the file or folder that we want to restore. Now select the restore option from the context menu. Okay, now moving files and folders. Moving files and folders means changing the position of a file or folder from one location to another. To copy or move our file or folder, we need to right click the file or folder and then select the copy or cut option from the context menu. We need to select the copy option from the context menu when we want to copy the file or folder, or select the cut option from the context menu. Okay, when we want to move the file or folder. Now navigate to the location where you want to store the file or folder. right click on an empty area in the navigated location and then select the paste option from the context menu to paste the file or folder. Okay, we can press the Ctrl plus X keys on the keyboard to cut a selected folder or file and press the Ctrl plus C option, Ctrl plus C keys to copy selected folder or file. Then you can press the Ctrl plus V keys on the keyboard to paste the folder on the selected location. Okay, now the session 7 we learn about starting and shutting down a computer. When we have finished working on our computer, we may want to shut it down. In addition, if we wish to take a long break from working on the computer but do not want to leave it vulnerable to unauthorized access, we may choose it to log off. Sometimes we may also restart the computer in case where there is a problem that we are unable to fix or rectify. To log off or restart or shut down a computer, we need to first click the start button, okay, and then place the mouse pointer on the arrow button next to the shutdown button on the bottom right corner of the start menu. Okay, now a drop down list appears with the switcher user, log off, log, okay, lock, start, sleep options. Okay, now select the option to perform any of the tasks. Select the switch user option to log in with another account in the computer. Then the log off option. Select the log off option from the drop down list to log off. You need to log in again to work on the computer. Next is lock. The lock option is used to lock the computer. Then the option is restart. Restart option from the drop down list is to restart the computer. This causes the computer to reboot. Okay, and at last the option is sleep. Select the sleep option to sleep the computer. In sleep mode, computer takes very little power. Okay, so you can switch on your computer again by performing the tasks. Switch on the mains electricity button, switch on the UPS power button, switch on the CPU power button, switch on the monitor power button. Okay, so the computer boots and displays the Windows login screen. Okay, now the part is internet, session 8. The internet refers to the collection of an infinite number of computers spread across the world. So it is the largest computer network, that means a group of interconnected computers that can interact with one another in the world. So it is also known as the network of networks, as it encompasses many small, medium and large networks. It allows people to communicate with each other all over the world. Okay, so the applications of internet like as follows. The application of internet are: number one is surfing and searching the internet. Surfing means moving from one website to another using a web browser. Searching the internet means exploring various websites and web pages on the internet for the desired information. Some commonly used search engines are Google, Yahoo, Bing. Okay. Next is email. Email means electronic mail. Through email we can communicate with anyone around the world by sending and receiving electronic message within second. Next one is chatting. Chat, as the name suggests, allows you to talk real time through messages. Then e-learning, that means electronic learning. E-learning or electronic learning is the mode of acquiring knowledge by means of internet and computer based training programs. Then e-commerce. The concept of e-commerce is similar to commerce, which means transactions or exchange of goods and services. Okay, And then entertainment. The internet is also a great medium of internet. We can use it to play music, videos and games. For example, YouTube is one of the popular websites that provides videos online. Okay. Now the web browser. A web browser is an application that is used to access or retrieve information or resources from the internet. This information is available in various formats such as audio and video, files, text and images. So information resources on internet are identified by URL, that means Uniform Resource Locator, which is a unique address of each web page. Although a web browser is specifically designed to access information from the internet, it can also be used to access resources on the local intranet or files in a file system. Okay, so basically we will have two types of web browser. One is text web browser, another one is graphical web browser. Text web browsers display only the text based information. Okay, so that provides access to the internet in the text only mode. And the second one is graphical web browsers that support both text and graphics information. Example, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome. Okay, now what is website and what is web page? A web page is a hypertext document that contains the information. It may contain hyperlinks that we can click to navigate to another section on the same web page or a different web page. Okay, and a website is a collection of the related web pages linked to each other by hyperlinks. These web pages are stored on a computer, which is known as the server. Okay, so a server is a computer that serves or attends to the request of the other computers. We can access a website from our computer by typing its addresses in the address bar of the web browser. Okay, so the terms associated with a website are homepage, web portal. Homepage means the main page of website. Whenever we open or access a website, the homepage of that website is displayed first on our screen. Next one is web portal. It refers to a website that presents information from several sources. It also contains hyperlink to many other websites. An example of a web portal is www.yahoo.com. Okay. Now the session 9 tells about email applications. Already we know that email means electronic mail that represents a mode of communication in which a user can send electronic messages to the other users through the internet. This electronic message is delivered to the user in his or her email account. Email provides a convenient way to exchange digital messages across the internet. It is a mode that allows groups as well as individual users to share ideas, information with each other. Okay, so it is also preferred way for organizations to conduct communication within the organization and inform the customers about their new or existing products and the discounts they are offering. Okay, so we can send and receive email messages either by using an email server in a web browser or email client applications such as Mozilla, Thunderbird and Microsoft Outlook. Now we will be learning how to open email account. In order to send an email, we need to specify the email address of the receiver. The format of the email address is like that way: username, then @sign, then domain name. Before using the email service, we need to create an email account. So we can create a free internet based email account on email server like Gmail, Yahoo Mail, Reddit Mail, Hotmail. Okay, for example, we can log on to website www.gmail.com. Okay, and create a free account by filling up all the essential details in the required fields such as name, okay, username and password, okay, as shown in the figure. So after creating an email account, the next step is to log on to the account and check our email. After reading an email message, we can send a reply mail or forward the message to the user. Sending an email is very simple process. We can send an email message by using the simple following steps. At first, click on the compose button. The new message pop-up window opens here like it is. Type the email addresses of the recipients in the two text box here. The subject of your email message in the subject text box. Here it is, subject text box, okay, and your email message in the text area, my email message in the text area, okay, and then click on the send button to send our email to the desired recipient, okay. Also we can attach any file, also you can attach files along with our email messages by simply clicking on the attachment option. That is the option, okay. Now the session is introduction to social media. Social media are basically internet based technologies that facilitate the sharing of information, ideas, career interests and other forms of expression within virtual communities and networks, okay. So there are different types of social media elements used for various purposes, which are as follows. So the different types of social media elements used for various purposes are like that way. Number one is social network. It is a convenient way to get to know people whose interests, opinions and likes and dislikes are quite similar to yours. The internet contains various social networking sites and you only need to register at the websites to be a part of a social network site. Examples of popular social networking websites are Twitter, which is an online news and social networking site that allows its user to communicate through short messages called tweets. Next one is Facebook. Facebook is a commonly used free social networking website which allows its user to create profiles, upload photos and videos and send messages. Okay, here is the logo. Next one is media sharing, that lets you upload and share different media such as videos, audios or pictures. Example of popular media sharing websites are YouTube, Flickr. Okay, so YouTube is a free video sharing website which allows its user to watch online videos. It also allows its users to upload and share their own created videos with others. Okay, and Flickr is a website used for hosting images and videos. Okay, the next one is blogs. A blog can be defined as a website or part of a website containing the thoughts and ideas of a user. It is written in the form of a continuous commentary on any subject. Other users can read the blog as well as post their comments. Such examples are Blogger, WordPress. Such examples of blogging websites are Blogger, WordPress. Blogger is a blog publishing website that enables a user to create and publish blogs on the internet. The blogs created are hosted by Google and are accessed using a subdomain called blogspot.com. And next one is WordPress. It is a free and open source content management system which also enables us to create and publish blogs. Okay. Next one is social news. Social news is a platform that allows users to share different news items like Dig, Reddit, Okay. Next one is social networking apps. These apps are small applications used generally on mobile phones for different purposes. There are plenty of social networking apps available online which can be downloaded easily on mobile phones. For example, WhatsApp. Okay. Now the last part of this lecture is Digital India. Okay. Digital India is a campaign launched by the Government of India with the aim of providing government services to citizens electronically by providing improved online infrastructure and internet connection in the field of technology. Okay, the concept behind initiating the Digital India program is to transform the India into a digitally enabled society and economy. Okay, so the vision is very clear. The vision of a Digital India is segregated into three sub visions. Number one is infrastructure as utility to every citizen. Number two, governance and services on demand. And number three, digital empowerment of citizen. Okay, so all three sub visions are very much crucial. If we talk about the infrastructure as utility to every citizen, that is to avail high speed internet in all gram panchayats, to provide easy access to a CSC within their locality, and to ensure safe and secure space in the country. Okay. Next, for governance and services on demand is to transform government services digitally in order to make improvement in doing business, to avail government services in real time by using online or mobile platforms. Okay, and to talk about digital empowerment of citizens, it is to enhance universal digital literacy, to make all digital resources accessible globally, to avail digital resources and services in various Indian languages. Okay, so learn it. If you have any problem anywhere, then pause the video there and watch it repeatedly. Okay, thank you.